Trying to figure out how to do this, man. No, I was just gonna say no. I agree with both of you on this particular point.
Yeah, I'll put
And
progression to be good.
what happened?
No, I'm gonna put it in the pre-motion to be good.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. I know. I agree with both of you. What you both said. My bad. So
Okay.
yeah, we can move on to the
Um,
next point.
so this one's gonna be a little spicy, but this is the tag argument for your classic J Dyer tag. Um, I mean, with this one, it's like I think it's good for like I've seen a lot of people use it, and I kind of liked aspects of it, and there are some aspects that Thomas do use, like reductio ad absurdums. But obviously, we're gonna disagree fundamentally when it comes to epistemology. But like, if we're gonna weigh in like popularity as well and like how it's been used in apologetics, I would say I would put it in like in between impotency or agnostic mildness, because obviously I disagree with it at the end of the day, but I don't want to say it's like complete crap because we do use some aspects of it. So I don't know, like, what would you say, Aquino?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. On this particular thing, but you were kind of cutting out for me. Is my internet lagging or no? How is it?
It might be. What about you, Duong?
It kind of is lagging, I think.
Well, I could hear you. You're sounding good, but I think with the transcendental argument, uh, the the virtuous aspect of it that I see, like especially when people like Jay Dyer use it, is that it shifts the burden of proof so that it's no longer just you having to prove that God exists, but rather it becomes system worldview comparisons. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
who has a more consistent worldview that can account for logic, knowledge, stuff like that, right? And so I think there is good stuff in the way it's used there, but the way that Jay Dyer specifically uses it, I don't think it actually works. Like he presupposes like he presupposes like icon veneration and I see it too and stuff like that as well. I mean, like you don't need to presuppose all those things. Like the amount of presuppositions you put, uh, like for that argument does not require like all of Eastern Orthodoxy or all of Catholicism or whatever. So I think that argument is somewhere between like agnostic madness or Kant's dogmatic slumbers.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it in agnostic mildness just because there is a lot of popularity, and I like the way J Dyer does use it. So I'll put it like mid tier. Okay. Um, the moral argument. So I guess I mean there's multiple moral arguments, but I would just say like this one that I'm specifying is like if we are gonna say that there's some good in the world, that therefore it must be in some sense grounded in God, right? As the like ultimate standard of objective truth. Um, which I would agree to some extent. Obviously, like we say the natural law is a reflection of the eternal law. So I would say this is an all right argument, but I don't think it's like I think the issue with it is it assumes that there is an objective morality, but I think that's hard to get to, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I mean, I think we have arguments for it, but I don't know what you'd want to say on that, Duong.
I think that the moral law and the moral argument, um, it's good in a popular level, mostly because
Yeah.
I think most people they have, obviously moral intuitions. They have the law of God written in their hearts, so they'll know things like murder, rape is wrong, and they won't make any compromises for this. Right? They're not gonna say that rape is all right or whatever, but they'll they won't have anything to account for that objectivity, right? They don't want to just say, just my opinion. Like someone could just have an equally valid, opinion, and we could just differ, and that'll be okay. They don't want to do that, and so it forces them to recognize a higher level of objective truth. Now, obviously, we know this is God, but there are cases where you could be an atheist and you could believe in like Platonic abstract objects or like teleology, and you could think, oh, there's like objective morality based on that. Um, and I think that would still technically work, although it wouldn't be, as functional as it is with God because there won't be a reward system of whether or not you get punished or rewarded for morality. But I think it's still good at a popular level. So probably like impotency or pre-motion to be good or agnostic modus, one of those three.
Yeah, I was thinking impotency. I think that's like there's potential in it, but I think it's very easy for an atheist to be like, yeah, I don't believe in objective morality, which happens most of the time. So
Yeah, that does happen a lot. It's ridiculous, but it does happen a lot, honestly.
all right, so we'll throw that in potency. The resurrection. This one I love the resurrection argument, like the historical aspects of it, and I do use like people like Mike Lacona and a lot of like popular, like I think this is actually a really good argument when you're trying to talk to your average person about Christianity. So I would put this resurrection argument in St. Thomas Verified personally.
Yeah,
That's
I
where
would
I would
agree.
put it. Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
what Saint Paul says. He says. He
If
basically
Christ
says,
has not been raised,
yeah, our
then
preaching
our
is
faith is in
useless.
vain.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to say that.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
We
But I
hammer
mean,
the point on
even
that.
without our personal bias, it is very convincing given the biblical sources, and also the amount of conviction that the apostles had, such that 11 out of 12 of them would be martyred, and obviously Saint John was white martyred, and so it goes down to the trilemma of whether they were deceivers, deceived, or telling the truth, and obviously just from their moral behavior and their holiness of doctrine and everything of their lives, it just shows that they're obviously not deceiving us, and it's clear from their experiences that they're not being deceived either, so they must be telling the truth.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Thomas Apologia says minimal facts or maximal facts for the resurrection. Now, when it comes to this, I would actually say it depends on who you're talking to, because if you're talking to like your average, atheist who doesn't know too much about or like knows stuff about Christianity but isn't as knowledgeable like with the critiques of the resurrection and all that, then I would say like minimal facts. But maximal facts is going to be like when you're dealing with academic level stuff. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. This is a classic one. This is the contingency argument, this next one. For me personally, I don't personally use the contingency argument that much. And I haven't studied it enough where I feel like comfortable where I would consistently use it. I think it's a good argument overall, and I think there's a lot of like good proponents who use it. So I would put it in pre-motion to be good category for me personally, but I don't know how you would say, like, how you would use it, Dwong or Aquino.
Depends. Oh yeah, you were gonna say something, Joel?
No, you go first.
I was gonna say depends. I think. For example, could you run it real quick, and I'll see if I think it's, because I do know the contingency argument. Some people do like to use it a lot, but like, how would you structure? I think it depends how you would go about the delivery of the argument. You know what I mean?
Here, I could structure one. So,
Yeah.
this one is by Pat Flynn. He's like a Catholic YouTuber and author, but he
Mm-hmm.
uses Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas's on being in essence, or his De ante et essentia, in combination with a contingency argument. So he combines the two together. And I think when you combine these two together, it becomes like the strongest argument. Basically, you either have everything in the world is conditioned, meaning everything in the world is dependent on existence, or there's at least one thing that's unconditioned, right? And then you basically assume everything in the world is conditioned. Well, if everything is conditioned, then the totality of reality, everything is conditioned. And outside of the totality of reality, there's nothing going to fulfill those conditions. Therefore, if everything was conditioned, there would be nothing, because nothing would fulfill the conditions of everything. So there always has to be something that's unconditioned. And then you go to the nature of like what is unconditioned, and it has to be pure act. And then pure act has to have the divine attributes, stuff like that. So I think the contingency argument, when paired with the essence existence metaphysics, is really strong. But on its own, it's weaker than. So it could either be St. Thomas Verified if it's modified, or traditional versions, it would just be good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Put in progression to be good. This is the fine-tuning argument. Like similarly with the contingency argument, there's a lot of different types of fine-tuning arguments. But like if we're gonna use like a general one where the universe is like finely tuned so much like I actually Dwong, I want you to explain this because I remember you explained it to me one time and you used like the mathematical or scientific principles, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like 10 to the something power.
Yeah. I mean, there's a William Lane Craig video that's pretty decent for fine tuning, but essentially, when you look at like the universal constants and what is like basically a precondition for life, and precondition basically means like these standards or requirements had to be met in order for life to actually be capable of existing. There are a lot of these physical constants that are like basically like 10 to the 50, like 1 out of 10 to the 51st. Like if you change it like that by that much, like everything will go like to soup, basically nothing would exist. And so it just shows that like, there's such wisdom behind the way things are ordered, and if it was even slightly ordered differently, there would be no chance of life. And so the basic idea is that this just so shows that there's a divine mind behind everything. Now, obviously, the objection that atheists come up with is that there's like an infinite process of like generating universes or something like that, and then it just so happens that eventually, out of all these low probability accounts, something will meet the probability. So basically, that's the atheist argument against like fine tuning. Like it just so happens that there's like an infinite multiverse or something like that, and but the thing is, that posits you to believe in like an infinite number of objects and this like infinite process, rather than just believing in one infinite being that is intelligent. So it has less simplicity. It has more it has more commitments, and it's more ad hoc as well. So I think fine tuning overall, it is good and it's intuitive, especially for people who maybe aren't really into like metaphysics, but they're more like science based. They like studying physics, cosmology, and stuff like that, and they'll just hear about these facts about the physical constants and stuff like that, and I think it'll convince a lot of people at the popular level. But I think for more robust like metaphysical thinkers, it's not as convincing. In fact, people consider the fine tuning, like a lot of people into metaphysics, they think fine tuning arguments like one of the worst. But I think it has its purpose, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I would want to put it in potency.
Yeah,
because I think I do think there's a lot of good aspects about it, and I think like if you're talking to like a low level person who hasn't like studied as much into this, I think it would be a good argument just to like throw out, because when you're throwing out like first principles act potency distinction on like a random civilian, they're gonna I don't think it's a good idea. So
yeah.
I want to say I'm gonna put it in potency. I think that's a good tier to put that in. So the next one is answered prayers. And so this is just going to be like, if you pray and your prayers are answered, that therefore, or like your prayer gets answered, it happens in reality later in life, then it would be like a proof of the divine, which I want to say that there's like, there's some good aspects about it. Like if I wouldn't use it as a proof per se, obviously, but I think that if we're going to assume and presuppose that like Christianity is true, then it would be something that you could technically like argue to some extent, or not argue, but just as like a kind of evidence for yourself. But it is kind of like personal experience, and it's obviously not a demonstration. So that's what I would say. I mean, there's obviously like there's a percentage of is this thing going to happen, and that would be like the common critique. But I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean it's very personal and subjective. So I mean,
Yeah.
like, so sometimes it's hard to determine like, oh, like did this get realized through my prayer, or is there like a purely naturalistic reason, or is it both, or whatever. But it's like obviously for a believer or someone with faith, it confirms their faith and helps them. And even for some people who are not believers, it could help them uh, come to that point. But I wouldn't like necessarily go to this to someone who's like an atheist at first. I wouldn't just say that unless you're trying to welcome them into the action of prayer, which opens their mind towards grace and God. But objective evidence is usually more convincing.
I think, for example, this argument, right? If this is even an argument, I think that um, subjective evidence that doesn't mean it's not evidence, right?
Mhm.
But I think it is very beneficial, like Dwong said, for the person that's already in that spiritual level. And again, we have to know what a miracle is, right? It's a supernatural event, right? Which surpasses or transcends what we have here, right? So you can't really use it as evidence in the sense of like objective reasoning, in the sense like how you can prove 1 + 1 = 2, right? But um, I think everything God does, whether it's miracles or not, is always proof for his existence. Everything what the creator does is proof to himself. So it could be in reference to say, okay, yes, God does exist because of this particular miracle. But like Duong said, it's more for that spiritual connection already, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I agree with what you said. I think that it's obviously not like an objective thing, but
Right, right.
it's good for those who are in the spiritual
I mean,
life.
still evidence, but yeah,
Yeah, for sure. It's personal evidence to some extent.
exactly. Yeah.
So in that case, where would you guys want to put it? Because I actually have no idea. I'm in between agnostic mildness and like impotency.
Agnostic
Impotency.
mindedness and potency.
Impotency?
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, in potency. I think that what makes this the most beautiful thing is that again, everything that God does always is in reference to Himself. It leads to His existence. So because God did it, it does lead in some way to Him anyway. So in potency is fine. Yeah.
Okay, bet.
And the thing is, like, with answered prayers, like subjectively for someone, that might literally like be like the best evidence for God, like than like any other thing. So subjectively, yeah. So it's impotency.
Yeah, because like imagine you pray like, for someone to be healed from cancer or whatever it may be, and that happens, like that's actually like a crazy
Yeah.
personal prayer that would be answered, and that could be like good experience for them. So yeah, I agree with
Exactly.
that 100%.
Yeah.
The next one, this is a very popular one. This is Pascal's wager. And essentially this is just going to say that it is better for you to accept Christianity than to deny it, because to deny it would essentially there's greater loss at denying it rather than accepting it, right? Because if you accept it and it's not true, then then nothing happens. But if you don't accept it and it is true, then you obviously have eternal torment. So I
Wait,
think
wait.
this
Okay. Can I give an apologetic for Pascal's wager before we
okay, because
go
I
on?
actually don't like this at all, but
Okay.
let's
So
hear it.
I think Pascal's wager is actually like a lot better than what people usually think. And I also think it depends on how it's being used, because a lot of times in apologetics it's used poorly. But I think if you see the way that Pascal uses it in his Pensées, and then you could also update it, because obviously the way he uses it is not just the only way you can use it. You could use it in other ways. I think it's actually a very strong argument. So the way most people see it's like, okay, if Christianity is true and you believe in God, then you have infinity to gain because you can gain heaven. But if Christianity is not true and you believe in God, well, you didn't really lose that much. I mean, maybe you lost on like, a little bit of pleasure in life, a little bit of sins you could have done here and there. But besides that, you're ending up in the same place as nowhere, right? Well, the thing is, atheists will combat this and say, well, what about the other religions? There's like thousands of other religions. And what if these other religions are true? And you're basically just assuming it's either Christianity or bust. What about these other gods? What about these other religions? And yada, 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 so forth. Well, the thing is, the way Pascal uses Pascal's wager is that he uses this after presenting the motives of credibility for the faith. Now, obviously, he doesn't use as many like metaphysical arguments, but he uses arguments in favor for why there's God, why Christ, why Christianity, and then he uses Pascal's wager. And so you recognize that Pascal's wager is not used independently of any other proofs, but is used in conjunction as a cumulative case. So the cumulative case approach presents all the arguments for Christianity, whether that be through natural proofs for God, through proofs for the resurrection, through proofs of the marks of the church for the Catholic faith, yada, 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 all those things. And then you have Pascal's wager. And Pascal's wager is a vehicle, not an end in itself. Pascal's wager basically says you have all these things to gain given all this evidence for Catholicism, Christianity, and if you actually do commit and it turns out to be true, you have everything to gain. And if you don't, then you have everything to lose. And this isn't an end in itself, because we obviously know that, you're not going to be making an act of faith just based off of a gamble at the end of the day. But the gamble is supposed to make you start opening yourself up to grace, opening up yourself up to prayer. And from that, you're going to have a genuine interior conversion. And from the genuine interior conversion, then you're actually going to be able to have a firm faith that is filled by grace. So my idea of Pascal's wager is not used as its own thing in separation of evidence, but it's used in conjunction with evidence. And it's sort of like this very last like tipping stone. Like here's like the last thing that will like weigh the scales, that will cause you to actually take a leap of faith. And I think that's actually really good when presented in that manner.
I've heard it presented in that manner, but I didn't know that was Pascal in his writings that actually presented it like that.
He didn't present exactly like that, but he does present it towards the end of his work, where he already presents other arguments for like Christianity and stuff like that. So he doesn't do it in like the best way, but he does use it sort of towards near the end, if I remember correctly.
All right, so would you agree to put it in potency?
In potency, I just said all of that. You said impotency. Crazy.
Well, all right.
That's crazy.
To be fair, I was originally gonna put it in like const dogmatic slumbers or something like that.
That's crazy.
But okay, I'm willing to go pre-motion to be good. I'm willing to put it in for you. Okay. All right. All right. The religious experience is the next one. What would be like? Okay, so I guess prayer's answer would be a type of religious experience, but I'm trying to think of like maybe like an out of body experience, or like I'm trying to think of like something like maybe like you see an angel appear to you,
or like so this guy, his name is Roy Schumann. He's a Jewish convert to the Catholic faith, and he was an atheist, hardcore atheist, and he was walking through the forest. And while he was walking through the forest one day in the middle of the year, he was just flooded by the divine presence. And that made him believe in something bigger than him, something more intelligent than him. And so I'd say that's like a religious experience.
I agree. Yeah, like inclinations or feelings that, or not inclinations, but just like feelings of like spiritual, mystical ecstasy, you might say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Where would you put this one, Dwong? Because I'm wary to put it somewhere like low.
Either in potency or agnostic mildness, because I feel like
really over. So you would put answered prayers in potency, but
yeah. I think answered prayers are better, because answered prayers, it seems to have like at least like causal connection, like a cause and effect. Whereas like religious experiences, a lot of times they're just like random. Like there's like.
Oh, okay. Someone actually said something crazy that it's kind of true. Meadow says, religious experience converted St. Paul.
S-tier. But that was an S-tier religious experience. Like that's not like your average religious experience. When people say like I'm having religious experience, it's not because they heard the voice of the risen Christ saying Saul, Saul.
They get blinded after a horse.
Yeah. That is an S-tier. That is S-tier.
That's true.
That is S-tier, but that is
okay. So are we gonna? I think we should put it in potency, to be fair.
Okay, in potency.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is PSR. Are you familiar with this one, Dwong?
A little bit, yeah. It's like everything either has to be sort of like intrinsically explanatory, like it explains itself, or it's explained by another, explained outside of itself.
Yep.
And I think the PSR is really good for dealing with like people who like science and stuff like that, and who care about like their intuitions, like the reliability of the senses, because in order to have like the reliability of the senses or the reliability of science, you need the PSR, and then the PSR brings you to God as well. And so I think this is good argument for those people who actually want to like say like science is like reliable, or senses are reliable. Because if the PSR were not true, then you could excuse me, you could experience like literally anything, and there'd be like no backing behind it. It was just there. There was like no reason for it.
Well, I was thinking, I've heard of that formulation, but I was thinking, are you familiar with Copleston's formulation?
No, can you share me
Well,
that one?
it's very similar to Phaser's. Like in his 5 proofs, it's called like the rationalist proof, and he uses Leibniz for
Yeah.
the argument. It's like it has to do with like causal chains, and it's like if something which is contingent doesn't have an explanation in itself, it obviously must have an explanation for its existence outside of it. And it's similar to the contingency argument,
Yeah.
because eventually what you're going to say is that there's a necessary being which its explanation for its existence is in itself.
Yeah.
And this is going to be God. So I actually like this one, and I'm willing to put it in pre-motion to be good because it's like a basic, almost like Thomistic demonstration type of argument. So I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I'd
Pre-motion
agree.
either.
It's a good argument.
Okay. All right, bet.
Yeah, Thomas Apologia said you could reduce denying the PSR to absurdity. That's the point I was trying to make. Like anyone who wants to reject the PSR, like life becomes absurd for them. They can't make sense of it.
I think that's one of the things that Blessed John Duns Scotus did to argue for the existence of God. He used the PSR as well because, like, you know, obviously, I like to have 3 kind of or I don't know if you call them properly categories, but I like to categorize these things, right? For people who aren't aware of much about the act and potency distinction by Aristotle, right? So I think a very helpful distinction I came up with the other day that helps a lot of people, that proves the PSR as well, is like point number 1. You know, how I categorize these things, right? Number 1 would be pure potency, right? Which things that are just purely conceptual, like a unicorn, for instance, falls in this first number 1, right? And then number 2 would be like a mixture of act and potency. Act just means actually, or what's actual. So, for example, this would fall under the category of us, a cat, a dog. The Islamic God falls under number 2. You know, stuff like that. You know, so you know, act and potency comes in like that, right? That's you know, a mixture. Now, number 3, which is why I'm dissing the you know, their Tawhid or whatever. But number 3 would be pure act. So we have pure potency, act and potency, and then pure act, right? Something that is purely actual. And this proves the principle of sufficient reason as well, how Scotus argues and Aquinas argues and all these people argue. Because without number 3, guys, right, being pure act, without number 3, you can't have 2 or 1. That's it. You can't have 2 or 1 at all. You need something that's purely actual. I won't get into justification for this, but just so you can get a
yeah, I'm sure we'll get into this more as well when we get to the emotion.
Right. So, you know, number 3, you have to have number 3 for 2 and 1 to exist. If you don't have 3, nothing exists. But yeah.
Oh, someone said I think PSR is low key better than motion argument is my hot take.
Ooh.
I would say that's a mild take because I've seen like the PSR argument, like if it's defended well, it might be better because I think it's the principle it's using is more like self-evident than act potency, but that's my opinion. Right? Like the principle of sufficient reason I think is more evident than act potency, but that's what I would say.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is finality. And this is the 5th way of St. Thomas. And it's essentially just going to say, like, we know that, like, rational things act for a certain end. But when it comes to things which are irrational, we observe that they also act for an end a lot of the time, or most of the time. And this could only be the case if it was directed to that end by, obviously, which would conclude at God. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Aquino or Dwong.
No, I mean, you said it all good. I don't have anything to add to that. Okay. I don't know if Dwong does though, but
no, I'm just thinking about it. Yeah, it's basically like, you know, like things that are like not rational still have teleology and act towards end as if it is intelligent, but obviously it's not thinking about it. So that means it has to be guided by something. Like if like I think St. Thomas Aquinas sees the idea of like an arrow being shot, right? Like if you see like an arrow being shot and it hits like the bullseye of like a target, like you're not just gonna think that, oh, like the arrow and the and the bow by itself, shot it, because obviously the arrow and the bow are not intelligent, and so you're obviously gonna think it's gonna be directed and shot by an archer, right?
Right.
I would put this personally in pre-motion to be good. Now it's kind of ironic because it's by St. Thomas, but I put it in pre-motion to be good. But I don't know if you guys would agree.
I think it's good, but I think it's sometimes hard to argue with the objectors, especially people who have like a radical evolutionary view of reality. Like if
like as a naturalistic, like the rock acts because of gravity, not because of like finality, they might say.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it's either pre-motion to be good or impotency, or one of the two.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to say pre-motion to be good because I am a Thomist and I'm a little biased.
Okay, yeah. Then
I don't know, man. I just don't want to get slack, But it is a good argument though. But I think it's not the hardest of St. Thomas's arguments. I think, which we'll get to, the argument from degrees is a bit harder to defend, in my opinion. But okay. The Anselm's ontological argument. Dwong, do you want to explain this one? I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I can explain it if you want.
I could kind of explain it. So like, the idea of God, or the definition of God, includes, or the description of God includes, like, a being who is like maximally perfect, and basically you have this idea of this perfect being, but it would be more perfect if it actually existed than if it didn't exist, because existence is a perfection. Therefore, you move from the idea of a perfect God to there must actually being a perfect being with existence, something like that. I think there's you could further elaborate if you want to do a better job.
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I mean it's a very basic argument. I think I don't think there's too much to it unless you're like using some other formulation of it, but I feel like I would put it in agnostic mildness, because I just don't think it's like convincing. Like I feel like even before I was into St. Thomas and I was familiar with this argument, it just sounded like too good to be true. Well, so I would put it in agnostic mildness, but up to you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think like the way he was doing it was sort of like a fruit of a meditation, and it's a good meditation. Like if you already believe in the existence of God, then sort of the argument starts to make sense. But then St. Thomas Aquinas critiques it because he's saying like you're going from in the mind to reality, whereas where he says that's like an invalid move right then and there. But I think for someone who already believes in the existence of God, and then you meditate on it, it is something that is fruitful. So I don't think it's like terrible, but I don't think it's like a good argument to present.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you put it in then? I would be putting it at agnostic mildness, but I don't know if you want to go like one higher.
That works. Yeah, agnostic mildness or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Now before we continue, this is my plea to get Pints with Aquinas. I have a Pints with Aquinas mug, and
on Pints.
This is not actual champagne. This is just sparkling cider, and I'm gonna have some sparkling cider with my Pints with Aquinas that I bought mug. So that's my.
Wait, are you actually getting on Pints of the Pints, or is this?
No, I'm just asking to get on. I don't know, man.
It's gonna happen, bro. It's gonna happen soon.
I need all of you guys in the chat and my channels watching me right now, and the Wongs people are here, man. Go spam Matt Fred, be like, "Oh, Sanctus needs this collab."
All right. To be fair, I heard he actually doesn't care for that.
For what?
I think Dwong posted on a live stream.
Oh yeah, he has to know you. Basically, he has to know you. If he's gonna invite you. Yeah, that's
like know you, like as in like he has to know who, your
of you. Know of you, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
does he know you, Sanctus?
Probably not.
Not yet.
I don't
bro,
know.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
That's
He will. He will. It's
He
okay.
will, bro.
He will,
But
bro.
I'm
It's
sipping
in
out of my.
potency right now. It's in potency, bro.
It is in
Trust.
potency, and it's going to be
Yeah.
actualized soon. But I'm sipping out of my Pints with Aquinas mug. And
W.
just a side note, what goes well with a Pints with Aquinas mug is a Sanctus mug, which you guys can get, which you can get on my merch store. At
Link in the
search up-
description.
Link in the description. You can also search up Sanctus Theology merch, and it will come up. So it's on bonfire.com. Okay, thank you. That was my quick plug.
Let me add on to that real quick.
Oh my
The
god.
Sanctus merch actually increases your Riz. You're like 10 times more likely to Riz up a girl when you have Sanctus merch. It's a fact. Everyone knows it. So
And if you want your Riz to be taken to an ultimate level, bro, buy the Dwong book too. Just saying.
yeah,
Just
buy
saying.
the Dwong book too. Exactly. So true.
All right. So disregard that last part. I did not accept that promo. I did not accept that promo. So anyway.
Hey, man.
Moving on to the Kalam cosmological argument. So this one's a very famous one. I actually used this a long time ago, like a couple of years ago. This would be like one that everybody knew. And there's two forms of it. There's the scientific one, which I'll be honest, I don't really care for.
Yeah.
And
The
then
scientific
there's
one is like basically atheism. Let's just say that. The scientific one.
yeah,
is
because
basically
there's always
atheism.
like new theories coming about.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't really take it serious when there's no like consensus really with like the Big Bang and all that stuff. With the metaphysical one or the philosophical part, I obviously don't hold to it anymore. Because I don't think you can prove the universe at a beginning, but I would say it's all right. I'm willing to put it in potency because it's just such a popular argument. It's a classic, I would say. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that, but yeah.
Well, I think there are like newer versions. Okay, so when it comes to the Kalam, William Lane Craig was one of the ones to really popularize it. But then there have been other figures such as Alexander Proust and I think Rob Coons as well, and some other people who have been developing these basically these paradoxes with infinite causal histories that prove causal finitism, which means there must be a first cause, therefore leading you to God. And I think those versions are more robust and are definitely better. But when we go to like people like William Lane Craig and his arguments, his scientific arguments, I think, are not that convincing, especially since it presupposes so much knowledge. You have to like go through, spend so much time understanding, like different models of like how the universe began, stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. So I think that's like basically atheism. But when it comes to his metaphysical version, I don't think it's wrong, but I don't think it's like necessarily the most convincing. And I don't think using that alone derives the best divine attributes. So I'd probably say like Kant's dogmatic slumbers. Although other versions, I would give it a higher one.
Okay, well, I didn't make a distinction. So we might have to like middle it, kind of. If that makes sense.
Okay, we can middle it.
So like agnostic mildness.
Yeah, there are good versions of it, like better versions, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chat, how are we doing so far? Just let us know in the comments. So the argument for motion is the next one, and this is the one that made me actually like devout myself to studying St. Thomas, because I had originally read it from Phaser, and then obviously I actually got into it from St. Thomas and then the actual commentators. And I absolutely love the argument for motion. There are some like harder parts to defend, but like the act potency distinction. But if you understand how to defend that using like reductio ad absurdums, I think it's a classic proof. And in fact, if you don't even use, if you don't even say act potency, if you just say motion and you're implying like change, I think this argument can actually be used to some extent with like someone who's not as knowledgeable on philosophy. That's what I would say.
I think it's St. Thomas verified.
I agree.
Because the specifically with the act potency distinction, it derives so many divine attributes. Once you get to pure act, well, obviously pure act has no passive potency, matters in potency, therefore it's immaterial. change is the actualization potential. If it doesn't have potency, then it can't change. If it's unchanging, then it's immaterial and it's outside of time. Yada yada yada. Act is a perfection, and existence is the act of all acts. Therefore, it has to be pure esse, pure existence. So I think it is like one of the best arguments.
Yeah, like I was gonna say what Dwong just said. Basically, what I said earlier, right? You have pure potentiality, pure potency, act and potency, and pure act, right? And like he just said, right? And just to build off of that again, without number 3, you can't have 2 or 1. So,
Yeah,
what it is,
it's
man.
like the mozzarella of arguments for God's existence. It's a classic, especially if you're a Catholic. It's just perfect. So obviously St. Thomas verified. Someone dropped a $20 donation. Damn, I'll send it anyway. Okay, I saw some comment earlier that he made, but I don't understand it. You might have to explain this. He said, "I'll donate another $20 if you roleplay how to respond to diarism. No foundation for a single word you said tag." I don't know what you mean. I'm not gonna lie.
What about diarism? Because Jay Dyer has a lot of beliefs. What about
his tag? How does he mean? Like, do you actually want us to respond to it, or do you want us to? He said roleplay. I don't know what he means by the roleplay.
Roleplay. Okay.
But thank you for the $20 donation, though. Like, we appreciate that.
Like, I could roleplay, bro. I could roleplay. I could start being Jay. I'll be Jay, and you be Trent Horn. Okay?
I feel like I'm a better Jay Dyer than.
All right, you're a Jay then. I'm just a chud. I'm a Catholic chud right here.
Okay.
All right. But the argument for motion, you see, act and potency, when you have a potential, it only becomes actual by an actual thing that's already actual. And so you can't have an infinite regress of act potency chains. Therefore, there must be something that's first and foremost, and that must be in actuality. Therefore, it must be pure act. What's your response, Jay?
Well, I would just say that it's going to lead to pure act. And if you look at the fathers, Gregory of Nyssa actually says this is not referring to the essence itself. It's going to be referring to our view of how we perceive God's essence. So this is actually not relating to God's essence itself. So we don't know if God is actually pure act. Yeah, there you go. That was our.
Well, just to add, I'll do an extra J Dyer thing, right? Just to add, and Sanctus, Aquino, and dwong, you guys don't understand the transcendental argument. All right, so, and you don't got the noose, and you got papal commas, dude. So no, I win.
I almost played Dwong's version of.
Oh, play the Funko Pop. Play the Funko Pop. Let's go.
I don't want to I kind of want to, but I don't want to make my viewers go deaf. So I might
make my viewers go deaf. That's crazy.
I might just skip over that.
No. Play the Funko Pop, bro. You have to just for 10 seconds.
All right, let me try.
It's a metaphysical necessity.
All right, let me try finding this. Just prep your guys' ears because this is going to be a lot to take in.
You're going to get so addicted and you're going to listen to it 10 times every single day like me.
Is it even on your YouTube channel? It is. Okay. Sadly.
The Funko Pop is causally determined. Did you find it?
What part do you actually sing, bro? Oh, okay. I see it.
People in the chat are saying legendary panel, bro.
This is the best you're gonna get from this. Okay, let me take this off. Oh my gosh, bro, this is so stupid. How do I present? Oh shoot, share screen. There we go. Wait, that thing. Okay.
Bro does not know how to present.
I'm a boomer.
You want me to do it for you?
Is it going? All right, there we go.
Yo, Sicilian joined at the right time.
Ooh.
Let's go. The Funko Pop time. All right, let's go.
Oh, I just reset. Shoot.
Oh, you have to watch an ad. You're cooking.
I am married to my Funko Pop. Whoa. All right, that was all.
That's all. That's all.
That's all we're gonna do. We're
That's
not,
all we get. Okay.
that's all we're gonna get from today's video.
Real.
Just for Drift's ears in the comments.
Yo, Sicilian has a $200 Funko Pop in his room. Dude, let's go, bro.
That's crazy.
W.
All right.
All right, back to the arguments.
We're almost done. We're almost done. So
Almost done.
Luls are, and we're actually gonna get the explanation from Aquino because he's a master in this. And our responses to Aquino are definitely not going to be biased at all because we're not Thomists or anything like that.
Yeah.
Not
Not an eclectic here. Not an eclectic.
Yeah, definitely not eclectic. So we're gonna get the Lulis to explain Lul's art. You're on the floor.
Yeah, so when we talk about the Illuminated Doctors or Doctor Illuminatus' work, the Ars Magna, right, the art of Ramon Lull, we have this particular way of systematic philosophy, how we do certain things in our system, right? So, for example, I'm pretty sure most of your subscribers, Sanctus, right, they're pretty much scholastics adherents, right? They adhere to the scholastics. Now, it's very important to understand that scholasticism is indeed a system of theology and philosophy. It's a system by the way you do philosophy. Now, likewise, in the Lullian system, okay, it's the same thing. It's a system as well. It's not the same thing in the sense that we operate the same as the scholastics. No, it's the same concept of a system to arrive at truths, right? Our system, though, is completely different from scholasticism. It has completely whole different ballgame. Our philosophy drives in particularly from a vision that our blessed doctor here had when he was praying in the mountain, right? So just to put it simply, I'm not going to go into a long detail here. That will be more on my channel cover because I don't want to annoy you guys with this. But what will happen is that basically the art that he received is a divine inspiration from God himself, right? That is the system itself to arrive at certain propositions or truths, right? Now, the art is consistent with universal principles, okay? And a universal principle, okay, is something that's undeniable completely, and it's just evidently true because it's a universal thing. It's a universal concept and principles. Now, this art contains the dignities of God, the attributes of God, the principles of God, and everything. Now, the point focus of the art itself, when one learns how to use the art and read it to drive a certain combinational, right? A certain combinational propositions, it necessarily leads you to the person who wrote it or the author who wrote it. So since the author is God, right? If you learn how to maneuver with the art, or if a Lulist himself was to show you certain combinational truths with the art, some universal principles, it will necessarily lead you to the creator. The whole purpose of the art is to necessarily lead you to the divine trinity. So you can debate a Muslim, a Jew, whoever. You could even do an atheist. If principles which are undeniable, that's why it's called universal. It's not just for Christianity, it's universal, right? If you use these certain propositions to lead or arrive at truths, you can prove the existence of God, which it won't contradict anything that other proofs lead to God, since every proof is meant to lead to God. But that's just something for you guys to understand, that it is a system designed by God for God to arrive at God. That's the whole point. So we can look at some arguments, but it'll be kind of, first you have to learn how to read the tablets, and that's gonna take.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's
Wait. So Sanctus. So this is basically atheism, right?
Oh my god! Oh my
That's
goodness!
crazy.
Oh my goodness!
Are we gonna put it below Anselm's ontological argument?
Yeah, bro.
Oh
Yeah, bro.
my
That's the
goodness.
question.
No,
That's
one
the
know,
question.
no one knows how to read Ramon's art. Like, he's a
Yeah.
blessed. We love him. We love him. But no one. I've never met someone who knows how to read his art. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, we got a couple people on my server, man.
I'm sorry.
All right. Let's be nice. Let's be nice. We'll put it in dogmatic.
What the yo?
Well, we'll be a little nice.
That's crazy.
It's just it's so nuanced, you know. It's like it's more nuanced than St. Thomas's metaphysics, and that's hard to do, right? So okay, we'll leave it at that. Unfortunately,
That's crazy.
I feel bad for Kudo here. Like he explained all of that, and then we are just like, all right, so we're gonna put this in
Well, I haven't gone in depth to it yet. Why I believe it's the superiority of all arguments, but that will be a topic later on to discuss because I don't want to bore your audience with like dualism or whatever. But
No, that's fair. That's fair.
yeah,
Thomas Apology says, I need to know how to read the art to judge it. See, the thing is, it's
You can't.
so good, but no one knows how to read it. Neither does Aquino. Aquino doesn't know how to read
no,
it.
I can read. I can relax, bro.
All right, next argument. What's the next argument?
Give me 1 second. I'm soliciting drift right now.
Drift to the chat.
Yeah. All right. The next one is efficient causality, and this one's like a classic causal type of cosmological argument. And I'm gonna put it S tier, St. Thomas verified tier, because it's just a classic argument from St. Thomas. It's even probably more easily defended than honestly, it's very neglected, I would say, because I think some aspects are easier when it comes to causality, when it comes to like comparing it with the argument from motion. It's very neglected, I would say, weirdly enough. So that would be my opinion. I would put it S tier. Would you guys agree?
I think it's good. I think it's like very similar to the argument for motion. Like, is that the third way, if I remember correctly?
Yeah,
Or is
efficient
it-
causality is
or is it
the second.
Okay.
second one.
Yeah, because the first two ways are like very similar.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's all the arguments are ultimately the same. It's going from what like basically per se causal chains reduced to something that that just exists per se and has pure act or is pure act. Yeah.
I will say one thing I do like about the argument for motion better is, well, I think when it comes to like the causal chain aspect, and like it might be easier to defend the efficient causality, insofar as like you're just appealing to causality, you're not appealing to act potency. But when it comes to like showing God's attributes that follow forth from him being like pure act from the argument for motion, I think it's better, and it's more like evident that it's this being which we know of as God. That's what I would say in regards to that.
Okay.
But I would still say it's S tier. I think it's just a classic. Unless you guys want to put it pre-motion to be good, up to you. I'm open.
Pre-motion to be good.
Okay. Where did it go? Okay. Oh, they're here. All right. So the next one is, let me just look at chat real quick. All right. The next one is near-death experiences. And so these are going to be out-of-body experiences. And now that I think about it, I put this in thinking like, this is interesting stuff. And are you guys familiar with like out-of-body near-death experiences where someone dies and like they come out of their body?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So I'll just say this one thing. I'm a little skeptical of it now theologically, because especially when you're reading like Orange. I remember reading Life Everlasting, and in it he said that we can say that as soon as someone dies that they are either in heaven or hell, or like purgatory, of course. So I'm a little skeptical of it now insofar as like theologically, but I do think it's interesting nonetheless.
I don't think that's necessarily a problem because like even in the Eastern Orthodox tradition, they have like the idea of like toll houses, and like in the monastic tradition, there have been like people sort of like having these temptations before they get their soul taken up to heaven or to judgment and stuff like that. And so I think that it just they aren't like 100% dead yet, or like they're in the process of dying, but it's not like a confirmed like 100% death. But the problem with near death experiences is that well, let me say the good parts first. I think near death experiences, they do show that you do have like a trans-physical soul, like a soul that is not just a bunch of atoms bumping into each other. There's more than just the material. There is the immaterial. For example, like John Hopkins University, they had a study on like near death experiences, and there was one where someone died in a hospital, and they said like their soul was like elevating up to the roof, or to the roof of the building, and they saw a pair of shoes on top of the building, and they knew like the color of it, even though they'd never seen it before. And then eventually they resuscitated to life, and they remembered their experience, so they were able to recall the exact color and the exact type of shoe that was on the building, and it so happened that I was there. So I think there is, you know, some credit there. But at the same time, people have had near-death experiences where they've, you know, seen like other religious figures, like, you know, say seeing Hindu gods or seeing other things. And I think obviously those could be like demonic, diabolical, you know, temptations and delusions. And obviously there's also just like the physiological chemistry side of it, and the phantasms and what happened in your imagination. And so I think it has some merit, but it's only sufficient for proving that there's like a trans-physical soul, but it's not good for God. So I think it's basically atheism.
Bro did all that and then said basically atheism. Okay. I think you're gonna say like impotency or something, but
no, because how are you gonna prove God from that? You're just gonna
well, it's like you have an immaterial soul, and you know. Okay, I guess we have to have something in basically atheism. So I guess, Giovanni, the $10 donate again. Giovanni, for your own bank account's sake, you don't have to donate this much money. He says, stream with Christian B. Wagner. When do you all not get along? Surprised this hasn't happened yet. I haven't streamed with Wagner. I don't do streams too often, to be honest, but I have done a video with Wagner on basically against Sola Scriptura. But yeah, we get along. I talk to him, so yeah, we love Wagner here. The next argument is the Diente, which yeah, I know you're gonna say that. I knew you're gonna say that. I'll say this. Dwong can get his bit in. I'm not gonna say too much, but I'm just gonna say I love the Diente argument so much. And its biggest proponents currently in the 21st century is like Gavin Kerr. He does stuff with Pat Flynn on that as well. And the Diente argument is so good. It's clear. There is some metaphysics that, like, you know, like when it comes to essences and all of that, it's good. I know Aquino probably doesn't like it because it tries to prove that there's a real distinction between essence and existence. So he probably doesn't like it for that reason. But for me personally, and I know Dwong's gonna agree, this is like great stuff.
Yeah, this is literally the best argument for the existence of God, like the best natural argument, obviously the best natural argument for the existence of God. And so for those who don't know, de ante et essentia means on being an essence, and this is a work by St. Thomas Aquinas. Basically, the argument goes something like this. You know, you could say two things about every real being: what it is, its essence, and that it is, or the fact that it exists. For example, you look outside and you see a man. What is he? He's human. But the fact that he exists is different from his humanity, right? Now, everything we see comes and goes. It's subject to corruption. It's subject to change. It came into existence, could pop out of existence, whatever. So its essence is different from its existence. Now, in order for something to exist right now, its essence must be conjoined to its existence. But what's conjoining something's essence to its existence right now can't be something intrinsic to the nature, because its essence is distinct from its existence. So it has to have some extrinsic cause or extrinsic unifier uniting essence and existence here and now. And now whatever like caused you to exist, basically, or allows your essence to exist, either this thing has an essence that's really different from its existence, meaning it's also contingent and dependent and needed of a cause, or its essence is its existence. And you can't have an infinite chain of these going backwards, because then you would have an infinite chain of borrowers of existence with no source from which it's borrowing from. And this would be like trying to charge your phone by plugging it into a phone charger, and that phone charger is not plugged into the electricity, and you plug that phone charger into another phone charger, and you do that infinitely. Even if you have an infinite number of phone chargers, you're not going to have the electricity accounted for unless you have a source. And so ultimately you need a first cause who has existence in itself, or whose essence is its existence. And this is God. And this is why God views his name in Exodus 3:14 as I am who I am. Who I am is his essence. I am is his existence. And so he's saying that he's radically distinguishing himself from creatures whose essences are distinct from their existences whereas he just is his essence in his existence. His existence is his essence, and his essence is his existence. And so he just simply is, and that's why he doesn't need a cause, and that's why he didn't come into being, because he is just pure being itself, pure subsistence, existence itself. And this is the best argument because all other arguments sort of reduce down to this in some sense. This is like getting the most fundamental thing, because St. Thomas Aquinas says that existence, or esse, is the act of all acts, right? Because existence actualizes any perfections. Because for anything to be perfect, it must actually exist first and foremost. So it's the most perfect thing. And so this gets to the most primordial, fundamental quality of a thing, its existence. And so I think all arguments can be like reduced to the deonte, or not, maybe not all, but like most arguments can be reduced to the deonte, and the deonte just gets to the very fundamental core of like who God is and why is he different from creation, and why doesn't he need a cause? Why is he always existing? Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was gonna say one thing. Yeah, most arguments do reduce down to it, and I think we could generalize it to most cosmological arguments specifically that reduce down to it. And interestingly, the diente argument for God's existence is probably one of the best arguments, and it's not even in the Summa Theologiae. It's actually in another work, obviously, like what it's named after, the Diente et Essentia. And what's interesting about this is that, like I said, it's one of the best arguments, and it's very, very underrated. Like, I think Facer made one argument for using it. But overall, like, people don't know St. Thomas for this argument. They know him from his argument for motion, his contingency argument. But this is a very interesting I think this is actually uniquely almost St. Thomas, although he does use some earlier philosophers. But okay, I think that's sufficient. Someone did ask, Giovanni with a $10 again. I'm rich in worldliness, poor in spirit. How to happen? Can you please rank Eucharistic miracles? They have been a deciding factor for many prots I know. I'm not as familiar with Eucharistic miracles. I don't know if you know anything, Dwong or Aquino, on.
Yeah. So some Eucharistic miracles, Giovanni, right? I think that again, a miracle is something that is a supernatural transcendence, right? It transcends nature, right? So I don't even know if I said that right, but it transcends nature basically. And particularly, we've had Eucharistic miracles. I can name one at the top of my head called I don't remember the name of it, but it's in Argentina, somewhere in Buenos Aires, I believe.
Or
Yes,
Buenos Aires? Yeah.
That's the one. Yes. So I think that Eucharistic miracles are very helpful, especially when the actual Eucharistic, the host, right? It's literally made into flesh or blood, right? And some arguments I've looked into, I question sometimes and think this is a good, solid argument, right? And I think one of the arguments here presented by the Eucharistic miracles, for example, would be like, every time they have Eucharistic miracles, the blood that comes out of this particular bread, right, or the host, it's always the same kind of blood type every time. So, for example, there's blood type B, there's blood type A. I don't know how many blood types there are. I'm not a doctor. Don't ask me that. But every time there is the same, the blood type that comes out of the Eucharistic miracles. Every time they grab hosts from all the different parts of the world and it has blood on it, always has the same blood type. I think that was very interesting to me, and it led me to believe that it's valid to argue and stuff like that. But I don't know. I want to know DeWong's position too on this. Or
yeah. So maybe we could first define what a Eucharistic miracle is. So the Catholic Church believes that at the words of institution of consecration, this is my body, this is my blood, the bread becomes the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ, and same as the wine becomes the blood of Christ, right? And so some Eucharistic miracles, we have this actually physically being manifested. For example, miracle of Lanciano, I think it's the Eucharistic host, what appears as bread starts bleeding. So they have bleeding hosts. So that's a actual thing. So I think it is very good for strengthening the faith of people who are already believers and even convincing some people. But I think these miracles, a lot of the times, there's just like you have to have so much trust in like how people handle it, like what happens behind the scenes, the scientists. So I definitely believe in these things, but I could understand why someone who is like an atheist might be skeptical of certain things, because it's like, well, only like a certain number of people could actually like see it, and then you don't know what people could have done behind the scenes. So I think it's good, but I don't think it's as good as like Marian apparitions. So I think Marian apparitions are better than Eucharistic miracles.
True.
I
For
agree.
mass conversions. Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest examples for a mass conversion, I'm Mexican myself, for example, Our Lady of Guadalupe, right? Our Lady of Guadalupe converted a lot of the Aztec pagans. Because of her, most of us Mexicans are Catholic. So Our Lady did do a mass conversion in Latin America, a lot. So yeah, I agree with the Wong that Marian apparitions are stronger and more harder to deny. For example, Sanctus mentioned one earlier, Our Lady of Zaytun. That's hard to deny too. That's hard to deny too. You know what I mean?
That's
And
good stuff.
Yeah, and the people who caught the miracle weren't even Christians; they were Muslims,
Mhm.
right? So that's another good one.
Big Steve. Oh, am I lagging? Oh no, I think I'm good. Big Steve with the $20 dono. Thank you, Big Steve. First off, and God bless. He says, "Dwong face reveal when?"
Dang.
Yeah, when is this Dwong face reveal gonna happen? I don't know. We got something there. That's close enough.
That's close enough. Real.
All right, that's all I want to do with that. He also asks, "What's the cosmological argument against premarital handholding?" I don't know.
You want to
We might
make
have to
one?
formulate
Here,
that.
let's make one.
Okay.
Okay. Cosmological argument against premarital hand holding. Okay, so if you're holding someone's hand, right, then that presupposes that someone else is holding your hand. But if someone else is holding your hand, that's presupposes someone else is holding your hand, right? But then that presupposes someone else is holding that other person's hand. Now, if this is before marriage, the question is whether or not are they of the same sex or of a different sex? Because if they're of the same sex, then it's haram. You could hold the homie's hands, of course. Or I mean, if it's of the same sex, it's all right, because you could hold the homie's hands, right? We could hold each other's hands, right? Exactly.
Question. What if I hold a female's hand in church when we're in prayer? Then what?
Oh, the Queen of Riz.
Shoot.
That's haram, bro. That's
No,
haram.
just kidding.
Nah,
I'm just putting this in,
Reply to objection, Aquino.
Reply to objection one.
Reply to objection.
Reply to Dwong, right? My reply is that's not true, because when you're giving the sign of the peace, you have to touch everyone.
Not if you give BLM, bro. Yeah, dude, no sign of the peace there. But anyways, what was I saying? You can't have these hands regress infinitely, because there aren't an infinite number of hands, because there aren't an infinite number of people. So there must be a first hand to be held. Now, is this first hand held before marriage or after marriage? If it's the first hand is held before marriage, then your husband's hand is not the first hand that you hold. Therefore, he'll be jealous. Therefore, it is most fitting to hold hands after marriage. Therefore, wait until you hold hands.
All right, nice job. Wow, that was great. The whole bit about like the causal chain part made no sense. But, all right. Dwong Mogs. The mogging of Dwong is impotency. Okay. Let's continue. All right. So where would we put Eucharistic miracles on this then? To come back to Eucharistic miracles.
Either pre-motion to be good or impotency.
Okay. If religious experience is going to be in impotency, I think it's fitting if we put Eucharistic miracles in impotency. Okay. The watchmaker argument. Have you guys heard of this one?
Yeah, it's like William Paley's argument, basically. Like, if you found a watch on the ground, you wouldn't just think it just popped up there. You'd think someone designed it. Now, if you found a bigger watch on the ground, you wouldn't think it just popped up there. You designed it. Someone designed it. And you found like an even bigger watch on the ground, you wouldn't think it just popped up there, but someone designed it. But then when you think of the entire universe and everything that's in it and everything that's craftily made, it just popped up there, basically, right? Is that what it is? So
something like that, yeah. I mean, I don't think any of us are like extremely acknowledgeable, so we might misrepresent this position a little
Yeah,
bit.
I
But
think that's William Paley's. I watched like a video on it. I'm pretty sure that is that's what it is. But I think this is like a pretty intuitive argument, but I don't think it's a very robust argument. I think it's intuitive for someone who's like maybe like your grandma in the church, like grandma, like you like basically want to convince a grandma like, oh, this is like why there's intelligent design. But I don't think like if you're gonna present it to someone who actually knows like objections, like it's gonna convince them at all. So it's either gonna, I think it's one of the bottom two.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I was gonna put it in basically atheism, but I did realize like you could use it at some level.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put it in Kant's dogmatic slumbers. There was one thing I saw. Aquino hand-holding during the Our Father is crazy. That is crazy.
That's crazy.
You know,
Hey,
you don't
man.
if you go to a TLM, you don't have to deal with that nonsense.
Really?
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. It's because like, well, I don't mean like anything. It could be your cousin, it could be your mom, it could be whatever. You know, when you're praying, just hold hands, bro. What do you mean?
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that putting your hands out, like when they're doing the Our Father and putting your hands like that, is not like you're not traditionally supposed to do that. Like that's
Yeah, I don't think you are. Yeah.
Unless you're a Maronite. In the Maronite rite, they do arrange
Yeah.
even the people, the laity.
Mm.
But a lot of people don't know that though. They just kind of just do it. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's not right, but you know.
Yeah.
Big Steve with a $10. Thank you, Big Steve. He says, which of you three would be first to get on Pints with Aquinas?
Sanctus for sure, bro.
Nah. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sanctus, really? Nah.
Actually, I don't know because dwong be getting pulled too. You guys be sleeping on dwong, man.
See, the thing is, I have like obviously more subscribers, but dwong has like I think a pretty good community that like always puts like stuff on, puts comments on Pints with Aquinas. So I was like, yo, get up dwong on Pints with Aquinas.
Yeah, I have people that shell me out, dude.
I got
a loyal cult.
It's not, hey, yo,
I know.
It's not only it's not only that he has like a good fan base. He has a book published which makes him like more professional. You know what I mean? So you know the guy got some, and he got. I think he had
more professional.
It does, bro.
Wait, didn't we just more professional? Didn't we just watch him sing? I got married to a Funko Pop.
You're right. Never mind. You're right, bro.
Bro retracted his statement.
Yo, I retract, man. No, but listen, I think he even had what's his name, Trent Horn on his reacting to his book or something. No, or something.
Oh, like Eric Ibarra, that was right.
Both.
And Trent Horn.
You got Trent Horn?
Yeah, bro.
Both.
When was this?
He was on stream. He's on his live stream. He was basically saying like, oh, like books on the Filioque. Like, there's this one released by I think his name is Brian Dwong.
Wow. Actually, how did I not hear about this? That's crazy.
Yeah. Crook asked who is the truest celibate. I think Sanctus is, even though he's been in the relationship the longest. I think Sanctus is the truest celibate. He never talks about women. He never does.
Yeah, only our Holy Mother.
I know, he's so real for that.
Sanctus got to write a book one day. I will. Once I like get to my master's program, I'll write a book. All right, let's move to the next argument. The last two. So it's the St. Thomas's argument for degrees, which basically is going to say that God is. So we start off, and Anselm's argument, his ontological argument, starts off with God, which is like that, which is maximally perfect. But St. Thomas kind of does more of a synthetic, or a posteriori manner, instead of a priori, where you deal with like actual perfections, which we come to knowledge of. And so like, I think St. Thomas gives the example of heat, and in the genus of heat, fire is like the maximal, or the maximum perfection of that thing. It's like the standard, essentially. And I think he would say that when it comes to like things like being and truth, God is just going to be that which is the maximum of it. And he also says, you know, that which is the maximum is the cause of all of that all the perfections in that chain or that genus. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if dwong wants to clarify anything further, but
Yeah, no.
yeah,
He does say that. And so basically he sees gradations. There's like things that are like more and less. Some things are more good, more true, more
yeah.
noble. And so there must be something that's most true, most noble, best, basically. And this is God. I think so I haven't studied this argument too much. I've
Me
had a
neither.
Dominican priest come and give a talk on it for the Thomistic Institute when I was leading that, and it wasn't very convincing, to be honest. I think the fact that you get to a most noble, most true, most good, I think everyone could affirm that. But an atheist might just say, well, the most good, most noble would just be some limited finite good, some limited creature. Like the most good thing would be like the universe or whatever, rather than it being like an unlimited source of goodness itself. So I think there are like implicit premises that can be explicated that can make this argument better. But just from my first reading of it in the Summa, I don't think it's like that actually compelling compared to the other ones. The other ones are more compelling.
Yeah, there's a lot more nuance, and I think even I'm not like I'm not the biggest like phaser guy, but he does make a good point because I think he said something to the like of most modern philosophers and most people in general nowadays don't really like understand the argument. It's definitely one of the harder, more nuanced arguments that involves a lot of components like perfections. So
Yeah,
where would we put it if
I'd say agnostic mildness.
all right, that's crazy.
What do you mean that's crazy? Dude.
bro said an argument from St. Thomas goes in agnostic mildness. All right, clip it, chat. That's yeah,
Is
that's
that
crazy.
anathema right now? Am I excommunicated?
That is anathema. Yeah, bro's not read Passendi.
Cooked.
I'm gonna put it in potency because like if we're gonna say like potentiality, like I think there's a lot of potential with it, but it just has to be explained and like nuanced over a lot.
You have to write an entire book on it. It needs an entire book-length treatise.
Yeah. So I'll put it in potency. All right. All right, one more, and then we're done, guys. It's crazy. The soul. I forget what I was intending for this because we kind of did it already. I think it's just gonna say, oh, okay. I'll give you one. So let's do like it could be either the cogito ergo sum from Descartes, which is like proves that we have a soul, or it could be which apparently proves that we have a soul. Or it could be St. Thomas's argument for the soul, like in the fact that we have a soul. That's actually a good argument for God's existence. So what would you guys say on that?
I'm inclined to say that it's good, but like not the best, because, St. Thomas argues that only God could create, spiritual substance as a soul, and you need argumentation for that. And of course, he has it, but I don't have it on me right now, and I don't remember it. But you know, the existence of a soul is like pretty compelling because it makes you start thinking about like eternity and stuff like that. Well, like if we have like an immortal soul, what happens after we die, right? And that makes you think about like heaven and hell, the consequences of your actions. So I think like indirectly it leads to a lot of good things and it leads you to God. But like directly, a lot of people when they just think they have a soul, it's not very intuitive that okay, therefore there must be God.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like kind of back and forth on it because part of me thinks that like I agree with you that just because we have a soul doesn't necessitate God, but then I also would want to say that, well, if the soul is immaterial, we would have to say that somehow immaterial substances exist, which I think you could somehow formulate that into, an argument for God's existence. But I think that would be getting into different areas.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think you could add on more arguments to make it so that it's that God exists. but just existence of a soul by itself, it's sort of like it makes you start thinking about like eternity, God, and those things, but it doesn't like pin you down to like, oh, like I have to believe in this.
Yeah.
Yo, Sanctus, I have an interesting question. Do you see the guy in Gady? He asked a question. Do you see it?
Oh. What is the Thomist view of partaking of the divine nature? Just wanted to know, Aquino. I think I'm gonna hand this one to dwong because I feel like he could probably answer this better.
You can see my own chats too that are on my channel. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
on my thing. Yeah.
That's kind of
Let's
cool.
just make a video on it one day, bro. We can make a video on it once we read Father John Arentero, I think that's his name.
Yeah, we could
Oh,
do
and his
that.
book. Well, that's what I was gonna say. There's a one book on it. I just studied really bad. There was one book on it that Dwong told me to read, so I'll read that. I'm not
Mystical
exactly
Evolution.
sure.
Well,
Yeah.
in response to this, I have like a response to this, but I mean, if DeWong wants to make a video on it, it'll just be a lot more better prepared anyway. So we can just make a video on it.
I think we would just say like that. You know, God by His grace obviously just perfects us, and in that sense, we. Well, I mean, partaking of the divine nature, it could be also part of the beatific vision.
Yeah.
Well, it
the
is. It
beatific vision,
is.
yeah.
It
Oh,
is.
then
Sharing in the
so
divine
then-
life.
It
Actually.
is,
Like
yeah.
the knowing
So-
and the willing
Yeah.
of God Himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It is, and yeah, we'll just give like a better explanation when me and DeWong make a video. Sanctus wants to partake in it. That'll be cool too. We can make like a video on it and fully go through it, what it means, and
Well, I can comment on the beatific vision. I mean, that's not like crazy stuff. The beatific vision.
I mean, you guys want to do it right now, or?
Well, I can just explain what the beatific vision is, which is the view of the Catholic Church, actually.
Yeah.
So the beatific vision is just going to be that once we're in heaven, that which is most desirable, which is God, we are going to apprehend directly, right? So in this life, we don't apprehend God's essence directly. But when we are in heaven, we'll be in a state to which we can directly apprehend the divine essence, and in that essentially see all things. In fact, this is where St. Thomas gets to his argument for the fact that the saints in heaven are aware of what's happening on earth and can pray for us, because the saints in heaven are going to be aware of us through the beatific vision, because they can see all things essentially through it. I don't know if anyone, Dwong, if you want to add anything on that, but yeah.
I'm good. I'm chilling.
Okay. So where should we put the soul then? I would say like agnostic mildness, or actually no, Kant's dogmatic slumbers, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lulian argument, Ramon used to go all the way to the top, man.
No.
Oh,
Oh gosh. Well, I know we angered so many Lewis in the process of.
No, it's like I'm gonna make a video responding, refuting Sanctus. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
yeah, that's crazy.
I'm gonna argue for Lulian's proof, man, to the top.
We'll see it.
Oh, he has more arguments, dude. Giovanni came in again with a $5 donation.
What'd he say?
How about general motives of credibility? 2,000-year old church, spread of Christianity, biblical consistency despite time and multiple authors. I mean, this is the culmination of I would say multiple arguments, because for example, like the resurrection, the martyrs of this the saints and their martyrdom overall, like these motives which we use, I mean obviously we're just going to say that this is how we know Christianity is true, through the motives of credibility.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, this is more arguments for like Catholicism being the revealed religion rather than for God's existence. Although it could connect with it, obviously, like, you know, divine providence guiding the church.
Yeah,
God is active and He's real and stuff like that. But it's better argumentation for the divine institution of the Catholic Church.
So would you say the motives of credibility presuppose like St. Thomas's arguments for God's existence?
No, it doesn't presuppose those specific arguments. It presupposes the existence of God. It presupposes the existence of God, but not necessarily those arguments. Because let's say all of St. Thomas's 5 ways are like invalid. Obviously, that's false. But let's say that is the case. Like that would not affect the motives of credibility at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Someone in the chat said, "Are all of you guys Catholic?" Yes.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Catholic.
We're the Catholic squad, man.
Yeah, I'm the only guy that doesn't have Catholic in his username.
So true.
Do we want to do like this? If you guys want to ask, are you guys free for like
Yeah,
15
I'm free
more
to
minutes?
chill.
I'm free to
free.
answer whatever questions you guys want to answer with. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, bet. So if you guys just want to ask questions in the chat or whatever, we can help or answer whatever. We're just gonna chill for a little bit and then we'll end stream. Okay, let me get off presenting. All right.
People that were saying, legendary panel, bro. Legendary panel.
It is legendary. We got to do more stuff like this. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We can definitely start streaming a lot more, the three of us, and maybe add in more people.
yeah, imagine we had like all of us, Wagner,
Yeah.
just like a lot of people just doing responses.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. For those people, someone did message me. It's like, do you have Astro on the channel? Yeah, I have a video with Astro. I have two, I think, on my channel. Wagner, I don't have anything with him, but he is in my Discord server with Astro. So if y'all want to join that, you should as well.
Bro,
But yeah,
bro, free promo. Okay.
free pro.
If God is all knowing, does that not destroy free will? I think that's what he's trying to ask. Like, if I know that you are going to do something, then it isn't a choice.
Who said that? Oh, is it?
Yeah, that was a comment. So we would say that God knows insofar as his causality. So insofar as God causes my actions to be, it's because, or let me put it this way, that God actualizes my actions, which I freely chose to do, and brings them into existence, to reality. So he doesn't make decisions for us. We still freely choose that. He merely actualizes the action itself. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Dwong. I don't want to sound like a Molinist, so I'm not going to say anything further.
Well, in the book, what's it called? Grace, Predestination, Permission to Sin by Taylor Patrick O'Neill. He goes through the Thomas position and he talks about physical premotion and Banez. And basically, the idea with the Thomas is that God can cause you to act freely because you're acting in accordance with your nature and your nature is free, but God infallibly causes you to act a certain way. That's the Thomas position.
In a contingent manner. Yeah.
Because he's just like so provident that he can cause you to act in a certain way freely. So God causes your free acts to be free, and this is a mystery, but this is the Thomistic view. Now, the Molinist view, or that view, it more sees, rather than God being as like a principal cause and man being a subordinate cause, it rather sees man and God on the same playing field, like two people tugging a boat and they have to work together. And this is the Molinist view. I don't think this Molinist view actually works because it reduces God's causality to the same playing field as a creaturely cause, and it makes him compete against creatures. So I don't think this is possible. But you're allowed to hold to that. But the Thomist position is more clear, although there are other positions as well. So you don't have to hold to the Thomist physical premotion, but that is a very intuitive view when you have the Thomistic metaphysics.
Yeah. The Ninth Crusade with a $10 donation. Thank you so much. He says, so normally at consecration, the change in the Eucharist is substantial, but the accidents remain so in a Eucharistic miracle. The accidents change as well.
Wait, read it again.
Normally at consecration, the change in the Eucharist is substantial, but the accidents remain, which is true, yes.
Yeah.
So in a Eucharistic miracle, the accidents change as well.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of understand what he's saying. Because, so for example, like the accidents, insofar as what we perceive when we look at it, if in a Eucharistic miracle there tends to be like blood, and that would be a kind of like accident insofar as like there's redness in the blood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in some aspects, yes, the accidents would change.
Yeah.
I see what
This
you're saying now. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he
Right.
meant something completely different. I understood the question differently. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a sufficient answer.
Yeah.
Total Jesuit victory. No.
He said, no.
Someone said Sanctus de Molina.
Sanctus
Sanctus
Demona.
Demona.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Sanctus tries not to be a monist for 10 minutes. Challenge impossible. That's all right. I'm actually so red pilled when it comes to physical pre-motion, so I don't know what Drift is yapping about.
Drift, what's up, man?
Why doesn't God have any moral responsibility for causing, as in being the first cause, every action, including evil ones?
Yeah, so there's basically God isn't like a moral agent, meaning that like, we become moral and we become perfected by acting in accord with the law, by acting in accord with our ends. But God just is goodness himself. He is pure goodness. He is pure being, pure perfection. And so he is not perfected by acting in accord with a law or according with rules. Rather, he just is the standard by himself. Now, the good thing for us is that with every permission of evil he does, that he permits, he obviously doesn't actively will it, but with every permission of evil, he brings about a greater good, including the the reprobation of souls, including people going to hell, including sin. Like for sin, obviously that brought about the incarnation, the greatest amount of good, the communication of the union of divinity and humanity in one person, in one divine person. For the permission of sin brought about the beatific vision, heaven, and all of that other stuff as well. And for the reparation of souls, it brings about the glory of God and the glorification of his justice and his goodness in general.
Yeah, and I think the fact that God has no obligation to do so actually shows the abundance of God's love when he actually gives us or when he gives us grace and we obviously accept it. So I would just add on that. Could you explain how, if the epistemological base of Christianity but further all religion is divine revelation, how could you possibly know which revelations are true given that they contradict? Well, the epistemological basis of Christianity.
I think I understand what he's trying to say. I think he's basically saying the foundation of Christianity is divine revelation, and how do we know that this divine revelation is true and doesn't contradict other revelation and stuff like that. And so this goes back to the motives of credibility. So basically, God speaks to us and we recognize his speech. And because God is the truth itself, he can neither deceive nor be deceived. Therefore, we know what he says is true. Now, the question is, how do we recognize that he's speaking to us? And so there are different motives of credibility to recognize this. And so some obvious ones are like miracles, right? So the Christian religion is based on the miracle of the resurrection. Christ came, he performed local miracles, healing of the sick, multiplication of loaves, feeding of 5,000, 4,000, all these things, right? Healing of demoniacs. And those were local miracles to prove the authority of his message. But his ultimate message was the preaching of the kingdom of God and the forgiveness of sins through his death on the cross. And the ultimate miracle for this was his death and resurrection. So he was crucified, he rose again on the third day, and the crucifixion and resurrection is the proof for the divinity of Christ and his message and his mission from God. And from that, we hear from his apostles that they were sent by him, and that he established a church which they would be a part of to communicate this revelation and this message for all mankind. And so you have the motives of credibility for the Catholic Church, such as the 4 marks of the church. In the Nicene Creed, we pray that there's one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Only the Catholic Church is unified under one head, the invisible head being Christ, the visible head being the Pope. only the Catholic Church is Catholic, meaning it's universal. It's spread throughout the entire world. St. Cyril of Jerusalem in Catechetical Lecture 18 says that Catholic means it's spread throughout the entire world. Only the Catholic Church has all four of these things. One, Holy Catholic Apostolic. Obviously, we have apostolic succession. You could trace back the bishops to the apostles and the lineage of the Pope. And then holy, the holiness of doctrine. If you actually see the way the Catholic teachings are, the fruits of the Catholic teachings, you see that produces saints, and you can see this throughout every generation. So those are some motives of credibility. You also have the holiness of doctrine in your own life, seeing how prayer and the teachings of the Catholic life bring about holiness. That's an intrinsic motive of credibility. Then you also have stuff like the profound peace of Christ. By actually living at the Catholic faith, you could experience the peace of Christ, and this is an interior witness. Then you also have prophecies. There's so many prophecies. We have videos on this. Gideon Lazar also has videos on this, prophecies for the Catholic Church, if I remember correctly. And so combining all this evidence together, you come to realize that God has spoken through Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ has established the Catholic Church to carry on this message. And only the Catholic Church possesses all these motives of credibility and all these marks. Therefore, only the Catholic Church is a true religion. And then you could also show that the other religions, other denominations, they are inconsistent, whether intrinsically or extrinsically. For example, when it comes to like Miaphysites, like believing in one nature that's divine and human is actually like appalling to reason, because you can't have something that's pure act, uncompound, it lacks all types of composition, with something that is a mixture of active potency, compound, and has all types of composition. And so it shows that that's like, obviously an internally contradictory worldview. And likewise with Eastern Orthodox, you could see that they aren't universally spread throughout the world. They don't have the mark of universality, but they also have false doctrines like the rejection of the filioque. And with Protestantism, you could see the rejection of papacy and some other stuff, such as lack of unity of faith, intrinsic divisions, and all of that. So that's all just to say that with the motives of credibility, you're led only to the Catholic faith, and you know that God has spoken in the Christian religion and in the Catholic religion.
Very true. And as an even more serious question, someone asked, is it pronounced dwong or as one word dwong?
You see, it's funny. It's dwong. So my last name is Duong, dwong. And I just misspelled my last name so I wouldn't dox myself. And so I just put a W instead of a U and made it dwong. But then Christian Wagner read it as dwong, and everyone has been calling me dwong since. But I've been saying dwong for a while. So yeah, I mean, I don't care. It goes either way. You can call me dwong. It's funny regardless.
Wait, how does Wagner say it? Does he say dwong?
No, Wagner says dwong. He says
dwong.
Yeah, he says dwong.
What happens with people that haven't heard of the Christian God or Jesus? Will they go to heaven or hell? And I'm just going to quote real quick from Gary Lagrange on this matter, just because he's an authority. What did he say? What happens with people that haven't heard of the Christian God and or Jesus? Will they go to heaven or hell? And essentially, what Lagrange says, I'll just quote from this part and then kind of explain. He says, further, among non-Christians, Jews, Mohammedans, pagans, there are souls which are elect. Jews and Mohammedans not only admit monotheism, but retain a fragments of primitive revelation and a Mosaic revelation. And essentially, at the end, he says, to him who does what is in his power, God does not refuse grace. So insofar as one has their will towards the one God, then and desires the grace from that, I see no reason why it wouldn't be possible for them to be part of the elect. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
right.
It's possible for them to save, but we don't know for certain. So pray for them, and it's better to spread the gospel than to not.
Exactly.
Only God knows. So yeah, just pray.
Yeah.
And,
What is your favorite spiritual works?
That's a good question. Are they asking all of us or just particularly a person on the panel?
I mean,
Top
anyone can
three.
answer.
How about top three of us?
Top three.
Yeah, top three each of us.
Okay. I'm gonna say my number one so far right now, and I would say Introduction to the Devout Life, and then after that, I'm going through Saint Alphonsus, and I like his spiritual commentaries. Gary Lagrange has a lot of great spiritual commentaries, so I would probably put Lagrange at third, and the writings of Alphonsus on two.
Nice. For me, my favorite is probably like just letters by Saint Francis de Sales. There's like so many different collection of letters, but I just like his letters on like peace and prayer, and so that's one of them. And then I also like uh, the practice of the presence of God by Brother Lawrence. I think that one is really good. He's a Carmelite saint, and then I like a lot of stuff by Saint Alphonsus Liguori as well. He has some good like sermons and stuff like that. I think those are pretty good. I don't know if that's like my favorite, but that's like definitely up there.
Okay. The guy that you responded to said, "Thanks, but you are missing my point. If your definition of truth relies on revelation, it's impossible to say in effect, my revelation is more correct than yours because the basis is revealed."
So our definition of truth is not based on revelation. Our definition of truth is that truth is correspondence to reality. So something is true insofar as it corresponds to reality. Now, if God reveals you to something and God cannot reveal something that's false, then what he reveals is true.
Yeah. I agree with that. It almost sounds like his question's a kind of a question of blind faith.
Yeah,
as if
we don't
just,
believe
like
in
freely, like we just freely believe on the revelation because we say it's revealed by God. Okay. Should I join the Dominicans? Yes. Is that Drift
You
that
have
said
to
that?
now. Drift, that's someone else.
That's someone else. I thought that was Drift the whole time.
You think that's
Oh shoot.
Drift?
I thought
And I said hello. And I said hello, Drift, to that person.
That's
not
crazy.
Drift. No way, that's Drift.
I thought it was because he has the same exact. Maybe there was another guy but he has the same exact.
Why would Drift ask me how to say my name? Drift.
That's true.
That is kind of true. You're an imposter. You're an imposter, bro.
Yeah, you're not Drift. Crook
You're
brother.
not Drift.
Crook
Yeah.
brother,
If reality is your truth, how is God revealed? Well, reality is that, or truth is that
reality
which
is
corresponds
not
to a
your
reality.
truth. Yeah,
Yeah,
is not your truth.
exactly.
There's an objective truth.
Yeah. Like, for example, the principle of non-contradiction. It's not my truth. That's a general truth which is applicable universally. And if it were not, it would lead to reductio ad absurdum. So similarly, that's how we would argue it in the case of what is truth. Tips for starting a YouTube channel. Be consistent. I remember asking this question on Matt Frad's stream. I remember like, well, what are some tips to be like a good YouTube channel or whatever? And he responded, and he said something like, quality over quantity. And I agree with him. Post quality over quantity. If you have a good video that comes out and it gets a lot of views, you kind of can build up from there. That's how I have done it with all my videos where, especially the ones that are bigger, I'm just able to build from that, and it's a stepping point. And I would just simply say after that, be consistent, but I mean, if it's just a hobby, then just treat it as a hobby, I guess, at the same time. Someone said, or Giovanni with a 10. Thank you. Thank you for the 10. Can I hear a refutation of the endlessly derivative precept that questions every affirmation/word you make? I understand it's a cringe auto-win argument, but how do you substantially respond? I think he's referring to, and I think Jay Dyer used this type of argument. At least that's where I know it from, is like, I remember, in the debate between Trent Horn and Jay Dyer, I remember there was like, Jay Dyer said something to the like of, like if there's a foundational truth, and Trent Horn like said it was the cogito, which couldn't be doubted, but Dyer said that, well, that assumes like words have meaning and such.
Yeah.
But do you have anything to comment on this? I mean, I can say something.
I think they're just like maybe we're thinking like properly basic beliefs, or beliefs that are like not dependent on other beliefs for their justification. So like your experience, like you just you don't really depend. Like if I see red, it's like it's not depending on like any other previous belief, that you just sort of given,
And it's similarly to like first principles, which are just assumed. For if they weren't assumed, and things like argumentation and reasoning would just be impossible. We don't need to, like, every single time I make an argument, I don't need to think about the principle of non-contradiction and be worried that I'm somehow like, or when you're thinking and you're making an argument, you don't just like constantly think about the principle of non-contradiction. You just presuppose it. You assume it when you're making arguments. So I guess similarly in that sense, I would say. Yeah.
Sanctus. Someone, Mr. Lung said, Dwong, would you say communion with Rome is one of the marks of the true church? If I remember correctly, many fathers say so. So Saint Optatus, he basically says, like the seed of Peter, that's like one of the marks or endowments of the church. So yeah, he sees the papacy as like an essential constitution of the church and something to help you quickly identify the church. And all the church fathers, this is one problem with like debating Eastern Orthodox, because they will try to raise the bar to make you prove Vatican I papal supremacy, when all you have to do is show that the papacy is like an essential constitution, part of the essential constitution of the church. And if only the Catholic Church has a papacy formally in communion, then only the Catholic Church can be the one that's essentially constituted church. So you don't have to actually prove like Vatican I papal supremacy in order to like defeat the other apostolic churches. You can just show that the papacy is part of the essential constitution of the church. You could do that from scripture alone, but you could also use that with the church fathers as well.
Yep. Let me see. There was one more. I agree with cause and effect. A is A. Reality exists independent of human consciousness. Just don't see how God comes into this without revelation, which is inherently anti-realistic. Well, like we said, with the whole with the motives of credibility, when we say like this is not like word of mouth, like we don't just we're not simply presupposing revelation. We're not just supposing on blind faith in revelation either. There are certain motives to which we hold to on why we believe in revelation, which are concurrent with truth, which are concurrent with reality. Yeah, I don't know like the angle that guy's trying to.
I think what he's saying is like, he believes in cause and effect and stuff like that, but he doesn't know why that leads to God. And we just say like, learn the arguments. We're not going to go through all the arguments here.
I don't think he's saying that. I think he's actually saying, because we brought up the principle of, or I brought up the principle of non-contradiction as something which is like fundamental to reality and reasoning.
Yeah.
And he's saying he sees how that is independent of human consciousness, but he doesn't see how God without revelation, which is, and he says which is inherently anti-reality, which I would want to see the justification for that supposition.
Well, the thing is, the existence of God isn't based just on revelation. Like, we can know God exists without revelation. So even apart from revelation, just from natural reason, you can prove the existence of God. And if you need help doing that, I would read 5 Proofs for the Existence of God by Edward Fazer.
What do you have to do to receive the Jubilee indulgence? Actually, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like a plenary indulgence. I forgot.
Yeah, is it like you have to go through the doors?
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Yo, Sanctus, I'm gonna have to go in like 3 or 4 minutes. I'm gonna go to church.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think we'll actually end stream here now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we hit 50K, guys. This is a big step in the future of the channel. And I'm glad we had it with Dwong, we had it with Aquino, who actually I've made videos with on my channel, so they're part of the journey. So I appreciate you guys coming in, and I appreciate you watching for coming in, and all the donations. We actually had a lot of super chats today, and I want to thank you guys for that, and thank you just for joining in and watching us. So yeah, appreciate that. You guys, I don't know if you guys want to say anything. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Dwong. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Aquino as well, even though he's a Lulist. But yeah, I don't know. You guys want to say anything?
No, man. Just thank you for having me. I hope to have more streams with you and videos on collabs on both sides at the end. So
Yeah. Sure. Thank you for having us on, and Sanctus, congrats on 50K. Let's go.
Congrats, man.
Let's go.
That's what's
All right,
up,
well,
man. I'm proud of you.
See you guys later. God bless.
All right, peace.
God bless you guys.